Good afternoon, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. It's January 3rd, 2024. It's the afternoon. It's very overcast. It was really cold this morning. It was like 23 degrees. Very cold, bitter, wet. The sun was out this morning, and then, of course, something happened to those creatures that were flying around in the sky spraying stuff, and then the sky went from blue to white. So it's completely overcast and cold. But anyway, this is Lorraine Alternative Homesteading. I have a something I would like to read to you. It is a theory. It's a theory that one of our subscribers, Rick, came up with. And I'd like to read it to you. He did say that I could share it with you. It's a very important topic. And it's a topic that's been in the news for several years. One with Brittany Spears. Everybody knows about her conservatorship. Of course, that had been going on for years before we ever found out that that poor woman was being held hostage by her family financially. And now we've got a newer case with Elijah Blue and Cher attempting to obtain conservatorship over her 47-year-old son, claiming that he's involved in too much drug abuse and a drug addiction. Well, in my personal opinion and knowing about addiction and stuff, parents need to butt out of a 47-year-old's life. What's happening with this person? If he wants to get clean, he will. And it's nobody's business what his assets are, or trying to quote-unquote protect him. If he wants to spend all of his money on drugs, then let him do it. You're not going to be an enabler and tell him what to do at a 47-year-old man. I think it's absolutely absurd. But people will go through any lengths to steal the money from other people, whether it's claiming them mentally ill, mentally incompetent. I mean, who is anybody else to judge these things of an adult, okay? So anyway, this was sent to me, I guess it was back in about a month or so ago. The ironic thing is I tried to respond to him 3 or 4 times. And each time I tried to, my phone would not allow me to respond. There's something about this particular topic that did not allow me to respond. I even tried to cut and paste the body of his email into another email, and whoever's been controlling my laptop wouldn't allow me to do it. So I sent him an email recently asking him if I could share it, and I will share it with you now. Okay, so here we go. He says, "Hi, Lorraine. I hope you're doing well. I came up with a theory last night. This is only a theory at the moment. Conservatorships. Conservatorship is a legal status in which a court appoints a person to manage the financial and personal affairs of a minor or incapacitated person. A conservator may also serve as a guardian who is responsible for establishing and monitoring the physical care of the individual and managing their living arrangements. A conservatorship requires a quote-unquote handler to oversee all of the person's financial and social affairs of the person placed into the conservatorship. Brittany Spears' dad was her handler. In order to get a hearing for a conservatorship, the person must have a mental health diagnosis which has reached a level that makes them incapable of caring for themselves, which means the stalkers need to get you labeled first. That's not hard, since the mental health diagnostic manual has increased in the U.S. exponentially in the last 10 years. And at this point, almost anybody and everybody in the U.S. has been diagnosed at one point or another and placed on medication. As a side note, A mental health diagnosis can prevent you from giving testimony in certain types of trials and capacities. So there's certainly an incentive for the nefarious to offer a mental health diagnosis, which is usually a crock of BS. It's usually defamatory, it's usually a fraud. So they can first label you to take your rights away from you. And generally, the people that are involved in offering this mental health, quote unquote, diagnosis has an agenda and is usually complicit with the handler or whomever hired them, paid them under the table, coerced or bribed them to perform the false, fake, fraud diagnosis. If the targeted individual files tons of police reports, it's not hard to prove, after a while, that something's not right. They need the mental health diagnosis and compelling evidence, police reports, to prove their concern for the target. Now, I'm going to add something here, okay? As targeted people, the crime increases exponentially around the target. It's not hard to prove that a target is being harassed, gaslighted, broken into, thefts, pet harm, vandalism, property vandalism. It's not hard to do, easy to do. But when you report it to the police, they falsify the reports. They fake it till they make it. Or they fill out a blank report, like the one that I filed here in Kentucky. I had a ham radio mast. It's got to be 100 pounds, I don't know, 80, 100 pounds on my driveway to prevent people from performing U-turns on my driveway, which they do on a regular basis. It disappeared. Now, we're not talking about something that was $5 or $10, right? We're talking about something that, to replace it in its original form, was about $700. So I filed a police report. I also filed an insurance claim. And of course, unfortunately, I have a $1,000 deductible. But I wanted it documented because we're not talking about a $5 or $10 item. But even though a $5,000 or $10 item, if it's being taken on a regular basis, every week, every 3 or 4 days, over the end of the year, and certainly over the end of however long you're living in the residence, that could add up to thousands and thousands of dollars, let alone the property damage. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that there is vandalism on certain people's property. I mean, you guys have sent me photos of the own damage to the burn marks to your animals, the damage to your property. I don't know, it's obvious to me. But for people that have an agenda, they want to discredit and discount it. And I'm going to say, on the record, go look it up. There's nowhere that says in any police department that there is a limit to the number of police reports that you can file. And when I lived in New Jersey for 30 years, not only did I file police reports against things that happened to me, but I have been a witness in traffic accidents and crimes and the abduction of a woman. Okay? So yeah, I filed those police reports too, and those were also used against me for filing too many reports. Good reason to mind your own damn business, and if some woman's being abducted, turn the other way. Somebody has a traffic accident right in front of your face, smashes into another one, pay no mind to it. Walk in the other direction, let them battle it out themselves. Don't file a police report. Why help the police? They're not helping you. So I'm going to read this again. If the targeted individual files tons of police reports, it's not hard to prove after a while that something's not right. Yeah, that's right. Something isn't right. Something isn't right when you file police reports and they're not attended to, or you receive the report back and it's blank. Okay? The report's blank. When you've provided all the evidence, right? So anyway, yeah, there is something wrong when police falsify incident reports. Something terribly wrong. So if you're under... Oh, okay. They need the mental health diagnosis and compelling evidence, police reports, to prove their concern for the target. If you are under conservatorship and you call the police, do you think they're going to file a report? They will until they get you into the conservatorship, and then afterwards they won't. You are not a normal citizen at that point. Your legal rights for self-care have been removed by the corrupt police that don't want to file reports. Meanwhile, there is nowhere stated that there is a limit to the number of police reports you can file. I mean, maybe if you're, 20 years old, you're filing a lot of police reports. Well, you're only 20 years old. How many incidences could you obtain in that short lifespan? But if you're 60 years old and you've witnessed crimes at your residence and others, is there a limit on the number of police reports you can file? There are laws against police falsifying evidence, falsifying reports. So the handler of the conservatorship decides what money is allocated to the person in the conservatorship, where they live, and what social activities they're allowed to perform. I mean, it sounds like they think that they're a parent of a child, right? Of course, this could be modified so the person in the conservatorship is unaware of the control in the background. The handler is entitled or entrusted to all assets, including income, life insurance policy claims, or any insurance settlements. Any funds paid to the person in a conservatorship goes into the main conservatorship account and is distributed based on the handler's decisions. Now, mind you, this is a theory. What I'm reading to you is not a fact. This is his theory. Okay, this is what he's come up with. 2 of the reversals in his film talk about them allocating money to me. Now, let me explain what that is. This individual, Rick, he performs the reversals in recordings. And if you go to my channel and type in the search for reversals, you will see several reversals of voice message that were left to me that he reversed. So 2 of the reversals in my film talk about them allocating money to me. And I apologize for my image bouncing up and down. That's the criminals in my phone. It's evidence, just more evidence, folks. 2 of the reversals in my film talk about them allocating money to me that they permitted me to have. They also said they permitted me the money to buy my car and that they plan to wreck it because it was a stick shift. He said it was not yours to begin with. It was loaned to you, quote unquote. And unfortunately, this poor guy did get into an accident and pretty much wrecked his car. And it was set up. It was a total setup. Does a conservatorship allow the handler total legal control over a person's cell phone account, email accounts? Could you move their cell phone account under their own plan if they wanted, like they did with me, meaning him? Could they enroll your phone in device management, view all the content, wipe, erase, or delete certain files? The answer is yes, quote unquote. Could the handler wipe funds in a person's bank account if they wanted? The answer is yes. Quote unquote. Could the handler legally cancel insurance coverage or file insurance claims on behalf of the person unbeknownst to them in the conservatorship? The answer is yes. Well, I'm going to say something here. In New Jersey, when I filed an insurance claim with Allstate Insurance in Toms River, New Jersey, the Dolly Walieski Wofskieski insurance firm that I had been with for a few years, when they came to my residence, they were late. When the insurance adjuster came to my residence, they were late. During that time, and this is something that I do from time to time, is I remote viewed where he was. I was in my kitchen, and it occurred to me like a lightning bolt. I actually physically saw him from my kitchen walk into the Manalapan Police Department, where they instructed him to not pay my claim and cancel my coverage. When that insurance adjuster came to my house, they refused to look at any photos before and after. They refused to look at anything upstairs. They refused to look at anything literally around the house. They looked at one shrub in the backyard. It appeared as if it was some kind of a joke for him. He didn't want to look at anything else that I had. He walked to the door, and I asked him when would it be decided if it's covered or whatever, and he didn't think that it would be covered. He didn't ask for any photo, any information. He was in and out of my house in a nanosecond. He had already made his decision up before he got there, based upon what the Manalapan Police, probably Lieutenant Thomas Mantle at the time, told him. Because they were the ones destroying my house. They were the ones hiring people to destroy my property and steal from me. They were the ones setting up their informants. They were the ones overseeing the break-ins. Oh yeah, my camera stopped. And they did cancel my insurance. First they said, oh, we're canceling your insurance because we didn't realize you had a cat rescue and we don't cover that. I said to them, you know damn well I have a cat rescue because I informed you. You asked me, and my cat rescue is covered under its own insurance policy, which has nothing to do with my house. And then they had to think of something good. And then they just said, it's canceled. I caught them in a lie. And then I called the insurance adjuster. On the phone. And I said, what were you doing at the Manalapan Police Department this morning before you came to my house? It was dead silence on the other end of the phone. Now, normally, if someone is telling the truth, he would turn around and say, I have no idea. What are you talking about? I just came to your house. But no, I caught him red-handed. He was so flustered that he hung up on me, indicating his guilt. They canceled my insurance policy. And that was while my house was listed for sale. This is how insidious, disgusting the Manalapan Police Department, Lieutenant Thomas Mantle, Edward Neese, the former chief of police Michael Fountain, and there are a whole bunch of little hockey puck, hockey effers, hockey club, organized crime network. But their own police officer indicated this in his lawsuit when he sued them. They actually had him go for a mental health exam before they would take him back to work. But they got rid of him anyway. Yes, they wanted to make sure that he was fit for duty and go for a mental health exam, which he passed with flying colors. But they accused him of being an enemy of the state. They actually reported him to the county prosecutor for crimes that he didn't commit. He's their own police officer. So if they're doing this to their own police officer, could you imagine what they were doing to me? Lorraine, living in the same house for 30 years as original owner down the block from the police department. So I'm going to backtrack here. Does a conservatorship allow a handler total legal control over a person's cell phone account, email accounts? Could you move their cell phone account under their own plan if they wanted, like they did with me? Meaning Rick. Could they enroll your phone in device management, view all content, wipe, erase, or delete certain files? The answer is yes. Could the handler wipe funds in the person's bank account if they wanted to? The answer is yes. Could the handler legally cancel insurance coverages or file insurance claims on behalf of the person unbeknownst to them in the conservatorship? The answer is yes. When I sold my condo in 2019 and moved into a rental, I tried to get renter's insurance but was denied because they said I filed a recent claim on my homeowner's insurance, which I did not. Could the handler legally place cameras inside the home to monitor your well-being? After all, it's for the person in the conservatorship's safety and to give them quote-unquote space so they don't feel totally controlled. Could the handler hire someone if they had the money? Or maybe they use yours to follow the person in the conservatorship using the excuse, oh, it's for their well-being. Or could they legally use your cell phone or trackers to track your movements? Yes. Could the handler legally have your locks picked on your home or car? Or legally request duplicate keys made if you rent by your landlord? The answer is yes. The end goal is not only to take the person's known assets, but the assets unknown to the person in the conservatorship. And that would be like all these criminals that take life insurance policies out on you. And I know for a fact my own cousin did it on her husband. He had his own life insurance policy. When he finally passed away under suspicious circumstances, she had another life insurance policy on him that he didn't know about, as if she needed more money than he was already going to leave her. Known assets include, now these are assets that we all know that we have. Personal possessions, properties, retirement accounts, investment accounts, life insurance policies, etc., payouts. Your clothing, your books, everything that is in position within your house, within your property, all the things that you own, that you've accumulated, that you've paid for. But unknown assets would include secret life insurance plans, any Federal Reserve account money due to the American when the USA Inc. was dissolved, when the former president was in office. And do your research on this, folks. The former USA is not USA Inc., right? When it was dissolved, when a corporation is dissolved, there are assets. And what comprises the corporation in the United States are the people, right? And I don't know about you guys, but have you been paying taxes your entire life? Right? Have you been paying taxes out of your hard work income all your life? So just so that you're aware, there is no website to search to see if someone has filed an insurance claim under your name except LexisNexis, in which the reports are often inaccurate. And just for the record, folks, LexisNexis is a subscription. It's rather costly. And most attorneys or law firms have access to LexisNexis. I mean, I know that I had access to it when I worked in New York City. They did institute a website you can visit where you can email a request to see what policies exist in your name. The agency will reach out to each carrier. However, it requires that each carrier is responding. It's not a website that lists everything out without having to go through hoops. But if you are under conservatorship, would you be entitled to see this information since your legal rights to your finances have been removed? The answer is no. If you're a handler with all this power and wanted to hire other people, stalkers, to torture, incentivizing them at your demise with your personal possessions, or maybe paying for their social activities, their drugs, their alcohol, while they stalk you, it would be hard to do. While doing rideshare, a number of passengers have put their cell phone up in front of my face and then click something on their screen. Maybe they have made it possible for them to point their cell phone at your face for facial recognition, which gives them access to a secret account under your name, which allows them to pay for their social activities or merchandise using your account. Seamlessly, it makes it look like you are the purchaser with an account you've never had access to. And he has reversals to support this theory. This scenario might also be accomplished if they chipped you. If the cell phone is close to the chip, similar to the Visa, you tap on the credit card reader, then it verifies identity and then charges the account. Chips, by the way, I believe, are more likely in fake teeth or fillings. Bluetooth name is explained. Bluetooth, right? Where did they get that name from? Bluetooth. It's a chip in the tooth. Oh, and if you go to Look Out for Charlie and you type in Lucille Ball, he did a video a few months ago about Lucille Ball going to the dentist and talking on it through an interview that ever since she went to the dentist, she has a radio broadcast in her teeth. So it's been going on for decades. Or maybe they, quote unquote, sell the person off like a slave through crypto channels. The price would be a portion of your estimated value at the end. Credit holders do this all the time, selling off blocks of current credit, especially in the home mortgage sector. A congressman, I believe, posted earlier this year on his social media, quote, "No, this is America. People are not for sale. You can't sell a human," something like that. Perhaps this is what he meant. If our own government is under a form of conservatorship via... Okay, I'm not sure if I can say this, but he spelled it. You know that guy that was offed in prison who has his own islands? You know, that guy begins with an E, ends in an N, has his own islands, who allegedly was, in prison. You know who I'm talking about. If our own government is under a form of conservative via that person's scandal, then it's entirely possible that most citizens are under a secret conservatorship. We are peons compared to elected officials. I do feel the majority of the targets are whistleblowers or enemies of the elite. Some of us are entitled to more money because we're older, which means they have made more money on us over the years. And the jabby-wabby patients put into nursing homes. I wonder who got their payments, like my mom, who worked until the day she was murdered. She worked her whole life. I wonder who got her payments. Oh, it might have been the person who stole her driver's license. Imagine your mother dies and somebody goes into her wallet and steals her driver's license and registration. Yeah, that's what they did to my mother. They left her credit cards, but stole her driving information. They stole mine too here in rural Kentucky. So this would make older Americans higher value targets. Like me, I'm 65. Remember the Freemasons? Oh yeah, you know what I'm calling them now, guys? I used to call them the Frey, May, Sins, S-I-N-S. Now I'm calling them the Three Masons. Three, because everything they do is in threes. Three, three, three. That's the Three May Sins. They sin 3 times. Every time they harass you, they sin 3 times. And you know they were formed, the Illuminati was formed in May on May Day. Are you aware of that? May Day, May 1? Yep. Remember the Freemasons? Well, they have an entirely separate court system. Did you know this? You will not find court records at your local courthouse for their trials. They have their own penalties for misconduct, which includes removal of businesses and assets if the quote-unquote master class Mason is proven to have done deeds outside of their standards of conduct, meaning that it doesn't benefit humanity, then the penalty may include disappearing. This you can verify. It's in several of the books published on the Masons. If these acts were done behind the scenes, then recorded, it might be in their private court system, or since the U.S. was a for-profit corporation listed on the Dun & Bradstreet, as is every department of our government, then it's possible that they don't have to record all of their decisions. It's only in the minds of the Americans that we have a fair and just system, when in fact it's a private corporation. It's entirely possible that everyone in America was placed into this program, but it's only activated when they get classified into the program due to an action. You know, like filing a lawsuit, getting divorced, pissing somebody off. This is just my theory, quote unquote, based on my documentary and research. He has a documentary that is really good. And I haven't watched all of it because I haven't received all of it yet, but I did watch some of his documentary and research. I do know this to be fact. However, it will be interesting to see if I'm correct. It does explain a lot of how they're able to get away with so much. Of course, we didn't even touch on the use of AI for some of these activities, which is being done by the Attorney General's office in Ohio. It was in a news article. Well, if it's being done in Attorney General's office in Ohio, it's probably being done by Attorney Generals in other states, right? Or maybe it's just simply that the definition of conservatorship fits the same steps or actions required by the Patriot Act for people named as a, you know the word, the T, the ERROS, you know, and put on that list, you know, the non-investigative subjects, on the hit list, on the watch list, you know what they call those people on the list, you know, the domestic ones, the ones that have no criminal record, you know. So he goes on to say, quote unquote, free Brittany might turn into, quote, free America, unquote, and then might turn into, quote, free the world. Rick. Well, thank you so much for that, Rick. That is absolutely a fascinating theory that I believe holds a lot of merit. And I'm looking forward to everybody's questions and comments. And if anybody else has performed research on this. I know that Janet Phelan, who's a journalist for the Activist Post, she's performed some research on this. So I might very well send this to her and see if some of this makes sense to her. There's also a YouTube creator who has been documenting the Brittany Spears and now the Elijah Blue conservatorship. she's talking about it being unconstitutional. And that in some cases it's just plain out abusive. So maybe I'll send it to her and see what she has to say. She is a lawyer, after all. Maybe she's got some other information. And I guarantee that there are lawyers across the country who work on elder abuse cases that may have a different take on this. What do you think, folks? Does anybody have names of elder abuse organizations or attorneys out there? Hey, but it doesn't have to be for an elder. Elijah Blue, he's 47 years old. Brittany's a young girl. You know, what is she, in her 30s, maybe 40 now? How old is she? I don't even know. But I look forward to your questions and comments. And this, by the way, this is Angel Praise. This is an oil painting that I purchased on eBay by Linda Russell. I hope everybody's doing well on this January 3rd, 2024. And this is Lorraine Alternative Homesteading. Please hit the thumbs up. It helps the channel grow. And I look forward to your comments down below.